10 songs. 10 times the labels got it completely wrong. Some of these songs were rejected outright. Some were mocked. Some were almost thrown in the trash by the very artists who wrote them. And one song took the biggest band in the world and cracked the American music industry open like it was nothing. You already know most of these songs, but I promise you, you don't know these stories. Number 10, Don't Stop Believin', Journey 1981. Don't Stop Believin' peaked at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1981. Not number 1, number 9. Critics were dismissive. The industry gave it a polite shrug and moved on. It's now the best-selling digital track from the entire 20th century. The song came from keyboardist Jonathan Cain, who had been carrying the title for years. His father's advice during a stretch when Cain was broke, newly dropped from a label, selling stereos just to pay the rent. Don't stop believing, his dad told him. Your biggest breakthrough is right around the corner. When he finally brought that idea to Steve Perry and Neil Schon, the three of them built a song quickly. But the structure of the thing broke every rule of 1981 radio. That opening piano line, the one you can hum right now without even trying, runs for over a minute before the first verse even starts. A 90-second instrumental intro in the age of 3-minute singles. Radio programmers found it mildly unusual. Critics weren't kind to the album. Columbia wasn't entirely sure what they had. The song peaked at 9, spent 9 weeks on the Hot 100, and mostly slipped away. Or so they thought. Don't Stop Believin' never actually died. It stayed on classic rock playlists. It became something people sang at the top of their lungs, in bars and arenas, across the country, year after year, decade after decade. And then in 2007, David Chase used it in the final seconds of The Sopranos, one of the most discussed endings in television history, and a whole new generation heard it for the first time. The song that peaked at number 9 in 1981 became the best-selling digital catalog track of the 20th century. Over 7 million US downloads, inducted into the Library of Congress National Recording Registry in 2022. And if you've ever been in a room when someone drops that piano intro and watched everyone stop mid-conversation, you already know. The industry saw a decent album cut. History saw something else entirely. Number 9, I Can't Get No, Satisfaction, Rolling Stones, 1965. Keith Richards wrote one of the most famous guitar riffs in rock history while he was asleep, and then Mick Jagger thought it was a joke, and neither of them wanted to release it. It was early May 1965, and Richards was at his flat in St. John's Wood, London. He kept a cassette recorder on the nightstand. Ideas had a way of showing up at inconvenient hours. He woke up the next morning, noticed the tape had run to the end, and rewound it. What he heard was about 30 seconds of a guitar riff, played in a sleepy, half-conscious voice, followed by 40 minutes of him snoring. He had woken up in the middle of the night, recorded what would become one of the most recognizable licks in rock history, and gone right back to sleep, with zero memory of any of it. I had no idea I'd written it, Richards said years later in his memoir. And when he brought it to Jagger, the reaction wasn't much better. Jagger heard a rough sketch, not a finished song. Both of them wanted to shelve it. And here's the detail that still floors me. Richards didn't even want the fuzz pedal on the recording. He imagined it with a brass section, horns, not guitar, that buzzing, serrated fuzz sound that makes the riff what it is. That was a workaround, a placeholder waiting to be replaced. Their manager, Andrew Luke Oldham, pushed for it anyway. The band recorded it first at Chess Studios in Chicago on May 10, 1965, then finished it 2 days later in a marathon session at RCA in Hollywood. And even then, Jagger wasn't convinced. He later said Richards really didn't think it was single material. And we all said, "You're off your head." Released in June 1965, it went to #1 in the United States. The Rolling Stones' very first U.S. #1. The riff Richards had recorded in his sleep, that he'd never consciously written, that both he and Jagger wanted to throw away, became the song that defined them. The brass section was never needed. The placeholder became the sound. History didn't care what they'd planned. There's something I keep coming back to with this one. The creative instinct worked so fast that Richards' conscious mind couldn't keep up. He had to be asleep for the best part of him to work, and when his waking brain tried to judge it, to second-guess it, he almost buried it. That's not unique to Keith Richards. That's what happens when we try to think our way out of something that was felt, not thought.
Let's look at the numbers. Only 9% of you are actually subscribed. Honestly, that's tough to see. Our team spends days hunting down archives and verifying every single fact just to tell these stories right. If you've made it this far into the video, you're clearly part of the community, so please hit subscribe. It costs nothing and helps us immensely. Now, for those already subscribed, very few of you have made the jump to our membership, and that's a hard pill to swallow because you're the ones who know our value best. If this channel has moved you or inspired you, consider joining. It's the price of one coffee, but it's the literal fuel for this channel. Let's keep this alive together. Back to the story.
#8, Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen, 1975. Bruce Springsteen's first 2 albums sold fewer than 50,000 copies combined. Columbia Records was preparing to drop him. And then he spent 18 months, trying to make one song sound exactly the way he heard it in his head. Both Greetings from Asbury Park and The Wild, The Innocent had come out in 1973, critically admired, commercially invisible. The label had bet on Springsteen as a potential successor to Bob Dylan, a writer, maybe too writerly for radio. By 1974, with nothing new delivered and sales flat, Columbia internally was ready to let him go if the next record didn't move. His biographer, Peter Ames Carlin, called the making of Born to Run an existential moment. If this didn't work, Carlin said, he was done. The prospect of losing music, the only thing Springsteen had ever fully projected himself into, was, by his own account, terrifying. He knew the stakes. He started recording in January 1974. He was obsessed with Phil Spector's Wall of Sound, that enormous, layered, cinematic production from the early 60s, and he wanted something like that, but bigger, more desperate, more alive. He wrote the album on piano instead of guitar because it gave him a broader palette. Sessions ran for over a year, multiple attempts, scrap takes. The whole time, Columbia had no idea what was coming, only that it was taking a very long time. The album was finally released August 25, 1975. The following month, Springsteen appeared on the covers of both Time and Newsweek. In the same week, he was the first rock artist in history to appear on both simultaneously. The label that had been prepared to drop him was watching a cultural moment happen in real time from the outside. Born to Run reached number 3 on the US charts. Columbia never doubted Springsteen again, and the song itself became his signature, not because the label believed in it, but because he refused to stop before it was right, even when the business logic said he was out of runway. Here's what I think about when I hear this record. He was terrified and he didn't rush it anyway. That's a different kind of stubbornness. From the outside it looks like delay, it looks like ego, and then the record comes out and silences every room. Number 7, Pour Some Sugar on Me, Def Leppard, 1987. Hysteria took Def Leppard nearly 3 years to record. It survived a car accident that cost their drummer his arm. 11 songs, years of work, a label pressuring them for a release date. And then, in late 1986, during a break at a studio in Holland, Joe Elliott picked up an acoustic guitar and started goofing around, and everything changed. The Hysteria sessions had opened in early 1984. That December, drummer Rick Allen lost his left arm in an accident outside Sheffield. The band refused to replace him. They rebuilt his kit. They waited for him to relearn the craft. They kept recording. Producer Mutt Lange was a perfectionist. They rebuilt and rearranged and layered the record for years. By late 1986, 11 songs were in the can, and the label was asking for a release date. Elliott and Lange were at Whistleord Studios one weekend working on another track. The rest of the band was away, and Elliott took a break. He picked up an acoustic guitar, started playing a riff he'd had in his head for a while, a 3-chord thing he'd never finished. I didn't dare suggest it to anybody, he later said. We were 11 songs deep into this record that we'd taken the best part of 2 years to record. Mutt Lange walked back in, heard it, stopped. That's the best hook I've heard in 5 or 10 years, he told Elliott. We should absolutely do this song. When they showed it to the rest of the band, eyes rolled. They had been recording for years. Nobody wanted to add another song, and within a minute of the demo, everyone was in. The whole track was written and recorded in about 10 days. Here's the part worth sitting with. When Pour Some Sugar on Me was released as the 4th U.S. single from Hysteria in 1988, the album hadn't even recouped its recording costs yet. The song reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. It pushed Hysteria from a successful album to a phenomenon, moving another 4.5 million copies in roughly 3 months. And honestly, I'll say it, that last-minute, goofing around, half-afraid to pitch it song might be the best thing Def Leppard ever recorded. The kind of thing you can't plan or manufacture. It showed up in a hallway, on a break, because someone was just playing and the right person walked by. That's not strategy. That's luck meeting preparation. And the fact that it almost got talked out of existence makes it better, not worse. Number 6, Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen, 1975. In 1975, the music industry had one rule that almost nobody violated. A single had to be under 4 minutes to get radio airplay. Bohemian Rhapsody was 5 minutes and 55 seconds. EMI told Queen it would never get played. Even Queen's own manager agreed. There was one DJ who thought otherwise. Freddie Mercury had been constructing the song in sections for years. Let me go. 3 different pieces stitched together into what he called a mock opera, a ballad, an operatic middle section, and a hard rock finale, all in one uninterrupted run. EMI didn't know what to do with it. They pushed the band to cut it to 3 minutes or to release You're My Best Friend as the first single instead. Something safe, something radio formatted. Freddie held firm. The first single would be Bohemian Rhapsody, full-length, non-negotiable. And then he did something brilliant. He gave a copy of the tape to his friend Kenny Everett, a DJ at Capital Radio in London. The arrangement, understood with a wink on both sides, was that Everett could have the tape as long as he promised not to air it. Everett promised. He played it anyway. At approximately 1:49 in the afternoon, on October 25, 1975, Bohemian Rhapsody went out on radio for the first time in history. When it ended, Everett could barely speak. "That's the modern version of Beethoven," he told his listeners. The phones lit up. Listeners demanded it be played again. Everett played it 14 times over the following 2 days. By Monday morning, people were walking into record stores asking to buy the single. There was a problem. It hadn't been released yet. EMI was watching radio audiences lose their minds over a song the label had said would never get airplay. They relented. Released it October 31, 1975, Bohemian Rhapsody went to number 1 in the United Kingdom and stayed there for 9 consecutive weeks. The rule about singles needing to be under 4 minutes, effectively abolished. In 2018, more than 40 years after its release, it became the most streamed song of the entire 20th century. Freddie Mercury walked into a label meeting with an impossible song and dared them to say no. They said no. Then the listeners heard 14 plays in 2 days and said something else entirely. The gap between what the business thinks and what an audience actually feels, that's where every song on this list lives. Number 5, Smells Like Teen Spirit, Nirvana, 1991. Kurt Cobain said he was basically trying to rip off the Pixies. Dave Grohl said the song was almost thrown away because it sounded too much like the Pixies. And DGC Records was quietly expecting their other single, Come As You Are, to be the one that crossed over to mainstream formats. They were all wrong about all of it. DGC signed Nirvana in 1990, expecting a credible alternative act. Solid, with a built-in audience, realistic ceiling. Cobain started writing Smells Like Teen Spirit just weeks before the Nevermind sessions began in 1991. He'd been listening to the Pixies obsessively, their dynamic of going soft and quiet into loud and hard, and built the song around that structure intentionally. When he played the riff for Chris Novosevich's initial reaction was to dismiss it as ridiculous. The band played it over and over until it evolved into something none of them had quite predicted. Even after the session, there was real doubt. Grohl told a BBC documentary that the song was almost cut entirely. It just seemed too much like the Pixies, he said. Cobain himself, in 1994, to Rolling Stone, was direct about it. "I was basically trying to rip off the Pixies, I have to admit it." The song that redefined rock for a generation was something its own writer considered an imitation. The song the label thought was the base-building alternative cut. DGC pressed their promotional chips behind Come As You Are. Smells Like Teen Spirit was the setup, not the payoff. When it broke through, it didn't just make Nirvana famous. It collapsed the entire commercial world the music industry had built across the 1980s. Hair metal, Warrant, Winger, Poison, Firehouse, all the acts label executives had invested in, groomed, and promoted, became irrelevant inside of months. A decade of infrastructure, gone. Not because Nirvana planned it, because a song that its writer called a Pixies imitation hit something true. And if you were a teenager in 1991, you know exactly where you were the first time you heard that riff come out of a speaker, not from a playlist, from a stereo or a car or a late night somewhere. And something shifted in you that didn't shift back. That's not nostalgia. That's what happens when a song lands differently than everything around it. The industry had no roadmap for Nirvana because you can't roadmap something that resets the rules entirely. Number 4, Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin, 1971. Atlantic Records asked Led Zeppelin to release Stairway to Heaven as a commercial single in 1972. The band's manager said no. Atlantic asked again in 1973. Same answer. Led Zeppelin never released it as a U.S. single during their active years. It became the most requested song in FM rock radio history. Stairway to Heaven appeared on Led Zeppelin 4 in November 1971. An untitled album with no track listing on the outside cover, no barcode, no conventional promotional campaign. The song ran 8 minutes. It opened with an acoustic finger-picked passage built into an electric rock climb and peaked with one of the most studied guitar solos in history. It broke every commercial template. Intentionally, the band didn't want it touched. Jimmy Page, years later, explained their thinking in plain terms. We were careful never to release it as a single. It was a milestone for us. Every musician wants to do something of lasting quality, something that will hold up for a long time, and I guess we did it with Stairway. When Atlantic kept pressing, manager Peter Grant shut it down in 1972 and again in 1973. The radio-friendly edit that would have brought it to 3 minutes, Zeppelin wouldn't allow it. Not once, not ever, without a single, without a commercial push, without a promo strategy. Stairway to Heaven became the most requested song on FM rock radio in the United States. By the year 2000, it had logged over 3 million radio plays. It became the best-selling piece of sheet music in rock history, over 1 million physical copies sold. Music stores in the 1970s reportedly started putting up signs that said, "No Stairway to Heaven," because so many people buying guitars would walk in, pick up any instrument on the wall, and go straight to those opening notes. The industry said you couldn't have a hit without a single, said listeners couldn't find the song, said you needed a radio edit to make it work. Zeppelin said, "Watch what happens when you refuse." What happened was that people bought Led Zeppelin 4, the full album, just to have the song. It didn't splinter the audience. It built it. And if you've ever picked up a guitar and gone right to those first 3 notes before you even decided to, you know what this song does to people. You know it in your hands. The industry was told to sell it in pieces. It refused. And what we got was something so complete that decades later, nobody's heard it enough. Number 3, Hotel California, Eagles, 1977. Don Felder created Hotel California in the spare bedroom of a rented house in Malibu. He used a 4-track recorder, a drum machine, and a 12-string guitar.
Her mind is differently twisted. She got the...
And when he sent the finished cassette to the rest of the Eagles, he didn't even think it was the song they'd notice.
And still those voices are calling from...
Felder had written 15 or 16 musical sketches for what would become the Hotel California album. He put them all on a cassette and sent it to Don Henley and Glenn Frey.
Gathered for their feast. Stab it with their steel.
By his own admission, he didn't consider the track that became the title song the strongest thing on the tape. Truthfully, he said, Hotel California was just another song on the cassette. A few days later, Henley called him. He'd been living with the music, driving around Los Angeles listening to it, and one track had stayed with him. The one that sounded, in his words, like Mexican reggae. That was the one. But here's where it gets strange. When the Eagles got to the studio in Miami to record it, Felder had nearly forgotten what he'd played on the demo. He'd made the recording over a year earlier, just playing instinctively, off the cuff. When Henley told him to recreate it note for note, exactly the way it was on the tape, Felder was at a loss. So he called his housekeeper back in Malibu, had her find the cassette, put it up to the speaker, and hold the phone to it. Felder sat in a studio in Florida and relearned his own song through a phone call. The guitar solo you hear on the final record is identical to what he played in that Malibu bedroom, because Henley wouldn't allow a single note to change. Felder himself later said, Hotel California is 6 minutes, the intro is a minute long, it stops in the middle with no drums, and you've got a 2-minute guitar solo at the end. It's the absolute wrong format for a single. Wrong length, wrong structure, wrong pacing for mainstream radio in 1977. And Don Henley had taken a piece of Mexican reggae from a cassette demo and written a meditation on the dark side of the American dream around it.
But they just can't kill the beast.
Hotel California was released as a single February 22, 1977. It went to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. At the 20th Grammy Awards in 1978, it won Record of the Year. The guitar outro, Felder and Joe Walsh weaving harmonized lines that resolve with near orchestral precision, was voted the greatest guitar solo of all time by Guitarist magazine readers in 1998. A song the guy who wrote it didn't think was the best thing on the cassette. A song he'd nearly forgotten how to play. A song that broke every format rule in the building. Record of the Year. Number 2, Jump Van Halen, 1984. Eddie Van Halen had the keyboard riff for Jump as early as 1981. For years, David Lee Roth refused to let it near an album, and Jump became the only number 1 hit Van Halen ever had. Eddie Van Halen was a classically trained piano prodigy who picked up the guitar in his teens and became the most technically influential rock guitarist of his generation. But he never stopped thinking like a pianist. By the early 1980s, he developed a synthesizer line on an Oberheim OB-Za that he knew had something. The problem was Roth, and the problem was simple: no keyboards. Roth felt synthesizers would make the band sound like they were chasing pop trends. He thought Eddie should stay a guitar hero. Eddie's response, delivered directly: if he wanted to play a tuba or a Bavarian cheese whistle, he'd do it. But without Roth on board, the riff stayed on the shelf for years. Until Eddie built his own home studio, which he named 5150, specifically so he could record what he wanted without permission. He laid down the instrumental track there late one night with producer Ted Templeman, and when Templeman heard it, he called it a stone-cold hit on the spot. He told Roth to write lyrics. Roth drove around Los Angeles in his Mercury convertible, being chauffeured by a roadie, and came up with the words. The band came around once Templeman's enthusiasm was clear, though nobody pretended the tension around the song had dissolved. Jump was released in January 1984 from the album 1984. It went straight to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, Van Halen's only number 1 in an entire career of massive records. The song their singer had resisted, the one that required a private studio to exist at all, was the biggest commercial moment they ever had. And you know how that goes. When you fight against something and it succeeds beyond anything either of you expected, the victory doesn't close the argument, it reopens it. Every time the song plays, the argument plays again. Eddie built the studio to prove a point. The point was proven, and Roth was gone from the band within a year. Some people say the tensions that led to his departure started right there, with a keyboard line and a hit that the singer couldn't argue with. Number 1, I Want to Hold Your Hand, The Beatles, 1963. Capitol Records rejected 3 Beatles singles in America. 3, not because the music wasn't good, because they had already decided, in a boardroom, without listening, that a British act couldn't break through. And then, one 15-year-old girl from Silver Spring, Maryland, forced their hand and changed the course of popular music forever. This is a story about an institution getting it completely, systematically wrong. EMI owned Capitol Records. Parlophone, the Beatles' UK label, was a division of EMI, same corporate family. I think you'll understand when And Capitol still told George Martin and Brian Epstein over and over, "You don't know the American market. British rock doesn't translate. Please please me, from me to you, she loves you," passed on all 3. Those U.S. releases went through 2 smaller labels, while Capitol looked the other way. George Martin never forgot it. Capitol's president, he recalled years later, was the one who rejected the Beatles time and again. Then a girl named Marcia Albert saw a brief news clip about the Beatles on CBS. She wrote a letter to a DJ named Carol James at a Washington, D.C. radio station, asked him to play their new single. James tracked down a UK copy of I Want to Hold Your Hand and invited her into the studio on December 17, 1963. When the song ended, the switchboard lit up. People called in demanding it be played again. James shared the tape with DJs in Chicago and St. Louis. And here's the part that still floors me. Capitol's official response was to threaten a court order. They tried to legally ban airplay of a song they themselves had refused to release. Then they saw the numbers, reversed course completely, rushed the U.S. release date from mid-January all the way up to December 26th, took full credit. Alan Livingston, Capitol's president, would later present himself publicly as the man who signed the Beatles. George Martin made sure people knew the truth. I Want to Hold Your Hand went to number 1 in the United States. It sold more copies in its first 10 days than any Beatles single had ever sold in the entire United Kingdom. 2 months later, 73 million Americans watched them on The Ed Sullivan Show, and the British invasion, every wave that followed, flows directly from a label saying no, a teenager writing a letter, a DJ playing an import, and a boardroom scrambling to catch up with a story that had already moved on without them. That's the whole list right there. 12 times the music moved first. 12 times the business caught up later. And every time, every single time, the listeners were already there waiting.